Уважаемые народные visitors. In the Anishinaabe language, I just said hello. Nandagikindana is my name, and in seeks to learn. I found it kind of interesting that that gentleman kind of spoke about some of my origins. That place that he was talking about, for us, it was called Turtle Island to begin with. It's actually Valid Island. It's part of the Apostle Islands in Lower Lake Superior. And for a long time, that was the capital of the Ojibwe people. Now, I am a storyteller. I carry quite a few stories. And a lot of times when we're listening to these old stories, we know it's going to be good when the elder says, back in the long ago, back when dogs could talk. We know that's going to be a good story. But that's not going to be this story. I work with dogs. My niche market is damaged dogs. I do behavior modification for shelter and rescue dogs. And for a long time, I walked with a very unusual animal. His name was Wabaan Ma'iingan, and in my language that means gray wolf. And yes, he was a wolf dog. He was a high contact wolf dog. Suppose he was about 85% wolf. This kind of story, this story is about how he came to walk with us and the blessings he left behind. My son has always been asking for a dog, practically since he was old enough to talk. This one particular weekend was unusual in a lot of ways. We had just returned from Kentucky, laying my wife and his brother to rest. And at this particular powwow, as I usually do, I was working security. We were driving around and we noticed that this one vendor had a lot of attention. It was a food booth. We were kind of hungry. And being native, we're always looking for fried bread. So Sandy and his wife ran this particular booth. And we were kind of wondering what all the activity was around. And we found out that he had this those little playpens that you put your babies in. We had one in the back of his booth, and it was filled with a litter of wolf dog puppies. He must have had at least half a dozen dogs in there. We noticed that all the dogs had different color ribbons around their neck. And being in the situation I was in and hearing my son's voice in the back of my head about how he wanted a dog, was kind of a weak moment. So I talked to Sandy. We talked about the dogs. He said all these are spoken for, the different color ribbons, and so that they could identify their particular dog when they got back. He said, but we just got the pair together. He had the mother. They were coming out of Oklahoma. They were vendors. And those of you that aren't aware, there's this thing out there called powwow. It's a Native American festival. Most of them are open to the public. And it's kind of like a circuit. There's a bunch of different powwows, and people kind of travel around from one to the next. And that's what Sandy and his wife did. So they were coming out of Oklahoma. And they had connections to a reservation up around Manitoba. And that's where the father, or the dog father, resided. Now, the mother was Siberian Husky and wolf. And the father was German Shepherd and wolf. Now, at this powwow, Sandy and his wife had been coming for a number of years. And usually when they came to the powwow, they would have a litter of pups. So, on the powwow grounds, I was actually able to see older siblings that were 3, 4, 5 years old. And these were awesome, powerful, big dogs. The average is running around 125 to 150 pounds each. So I figured, well, yeah, I'll wait until next September and I'll get one out of the next litter. Gave Sandy all my information, went about my way. Now, this particular powwow was down in Leroy, Illinois, and that was like the center for the Kickapoo Nation at one time. And we had been invited to do security at this powwow. We're talking later in the day, well after noon. We're cruising around in this golf cart, me and my buddy Bob. This kid comes up in a panic, running, and saying somebody locked a dog in a car and he's going crazy from the heat. So we told the kid, get on. He got on the golf cart, showed us where the car was. By the time we got to the car, other people that were around the situation were able to get into the car, get the dog out, and started to cool it down. So we decided that we were going to take the dog back to Sandy so he could stay there until we figured out who owned the car, whose dog that actually was. We were on the PA all day long, trying to find out who the owner was. We had law enforcement there. They punched up the plate. They had a name. We were calling the name. No responses. So now we're getting towards the end of the day. And I had already talked to Sandy. He told me that he was going to give the guy back his money. He didn't deserve this dog. So I was going to take this dog, bring it home with me. It was going to be a hard dog. So anyway, end of the powwow. This guy, traditional dancer, you figure he would have known better, finally figures out that the dog's not in the car. He goes to Sandy looking for it. By the time we catch up with the situation, he was kind of like a Keystone Comic kind of thing. The dancer's trying to give the money back to Sandy. Sandy's saying, no, I'm not going to take the dog. You're not going to get the dog. I'm not going to take the cash. I'm keeping the dog. And then all of a sudden, out of the wings, comes this guy, flashes a badge, says hybrids are illegal in the state of Illinois. I'm confiscating this dog. It was funny. The dancer plucks the bills out of Sandy's hand, turns around, walks away. As soon as he does that, the cop whips out his wallet. He already knows how much money was in the bundle. Whips out the money, he says, I'm going to tell my vet this is a Siberian mix. Walks away with the dog. Oh well, looks like I'm back to wait until September. Now, my elder is a vendor at this powwow, and I'm kind of bivouacked in his setup. This is the next morning, Sunday morning, we're all kind of starting to wake up. I had a vest that I wore that I wanted Sandy to do some airbrushing. Along with the food booth, he also did airbrush. So I opened up the tent, almost have a heart attack, the Sandy singing right there. And he says, you still want that dog? I said, I thought the cop took it. He says, yeah, well, ever since then, my wife has been a little bit suspicious. There's just one dog, and we thought he was going to go home with them, but she found out they were South American traders, like 3 extended families living in one house in the inner city. She doesn't like that situation. The dog is going home too. So sure enough, the couple things that were kind of unusual is that the first dog I thought I was going to get was a female. Didn't really want a female, wanted a male. And this dog was a male. So everything was kind of already starting to line up. My son and I both wear glasses. And Wabaan, when he was a puppy, the markings changed over time. But originally it looked like he had spectacles. So even that fit. So we brought Wabaan home with us. I wanted to name him Grey Wolf. I don't know my language enough to come up with those words myself, so I had asked my elder to help me to say that name in Ojibwe. He did very diligent work. He even called our language keepers up in LCO, and through that conversation we came up with Wabaan Ma'iingan. Now, Ma'iingan is the wolf part. The Wabaan part is the unusual part. I don't know of those of you that are in this area, but there's a street in the city, and there's also a school out in Naperville called Wabaan. Wabaan was a Potawatomi chief. His name translates to New Day Dawning. So depending on the dialect, Wabaan's name meant gray of the morning, that little grayish hue you see before the sun, or morning star. And that's how Wabaan came to Wapalas and got his name. Miigwech.